Hello, friends. I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's all fantastic. Everything here is great. I'm still working from the top of the new router table. Once I get, anyway, I'll get it on there eventually. Uh, First off, thank you, everybody. You guys are wonderful who have been giving me maybe sound advice, sometimes criticism about the direction of this show and things that have maybe to come and that sort of stuff. I am interested in growing the show, but not dramatically. I talked about Lincoln Street Woodworks the other day, growing his channel to 100,000 subscribers in 10 months. And that was in a very niche, I guess, market, category would be the word, with a very small number of posts. And that's really remarkable, I think. I'm not looking to do that. I am looking to reach more friends because I want to, I would like to have a good, stable conversation. So I have put a lot of thought into how to better integrate things like the game reviews or tool reviews or whatever into the show. I think it was Carl who suggested doing like a schedule, like a Monday is tools, Tuesday is games, whatever. I tried that in the early days. I literally had like a Google Calendar schedule where the attempt was to get some sort of, not necessarily a pre-production plan in place, but to have scheduled topics that the community could vote on and we could put them in throughout the week. For the very early years, I had Friday I called Buy Day, meaning that I didn't have to have a topic that day. It was I had 4 days of topics throughout the week, and then on Friday I would recap and read your comments and that sort of stuff. And then there's this thing. I don't know who all of you are old enough to remember this thing. I built this very early on in the show. It used to sit right here, and this has a little Arduino in it that plays sounds. This is basically like the Stream Deck that everybody uses on Twitch now, except my kind of old school recreation of that. And the cool part was, the idea was that I'd have these topics, I'd have discussions, and then you could call in. I don't know if you ever noticed, there's a number at the end of every single video. That number is a valid number for me. It is a Google number, and you could leave voicemail there, and I could put it on this box, and I could play your calls, and we could have discussion that way. So there was a lot of early attempts at having an open discussion, more of an open discussion around this channel. It just didn't work. I never did find a core group of people to help me curate or to help me come up with content ideas. People seem to be more than interested, or people seemed interested enough to hear me come up with whatever topic idea I had for the day and talk about it, but they weren't really interested in helping me. Does that make any sense? This isn't a rag. And what I found out in those early days was people much preferred this type of thing, where I just talk about whatever's on my mind for the day. But also, this type of thing is the type of thing that is extremely niche, right? Like, people aren't searching for this type of content anymore. 2005, 2006, 2008, 9, 10, when YouTube started to become a thing, yeah, this kind of content was really common and really sought after. People like me, in 2022, take this show and put it in 2006, I would have millions of views, or at least hundreds of thousands of views. And I would have, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Like, it would have been something that was so novel and unique that people would have stopped by. Now, it's not unique at all. There's nothing special about this, other than, my perspective. A 40-something dad living in West Virginia who does IT work for a living and has a wood shop. Like, there's few of those, right? So that's the only unique thing about this, which means that I attract a very, very, very certain small percentage of people, which are those that love to hear me talk about workshop stuff, or love to hear me talk about board games, or know me from board games and just want to hear what's going on in my world. And so it was very difficult to find an audience that would help me curate the show or help me build the show. So I'm not saying I'll never try that again. This isn't like a whining session. It's not intended to be a whining session. I think it turned into a whining session. But the fact of the matter is I just never found that audience that would continue to share my videos, continue to pull other people into the audience. And I don't think I ever really will here. I think there's potential for that in other aspects of my world. I think that at some point in the future I will, start thinking about taking custom woodworking orders and maybe building a client base that will approach me there. Writing projects. I think there is a future for me in writing projects. Whether I go back to ghostwriting. If you don't know, I used to ghostwrite a lot. I ghostwrote for many, many, many blogs, lots of articles out there in the world that are mine, but somebody else's name on them. I used to do that pretty often, and I don't necessarily want to ghostwrite anymore. I mean, it's easy money. Like, get paid $60 to write a couple thousand words is pretty easy. But I think there is potential for me to make something out of my writing. I just don't know what that is yet. Or possibly even, software type stuff. I just don't know what that is yet either. So there's a lot of potential for building other things. This, though, it's really the 5 or 6 of you that comment regularly that I look to for regular encouragement or regular idea generation, I guess. And if there is a collective there where we could try to come up with an idea, I'm more than willing to run with it. I'm more than willing to go back to the kind of advice show / content show that I intended this to be all along. I'm more than happy to go back there if that is what my audience, or if I can find an audience there, that would be great. But at the same time, this has become such a comfortable part of my life. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm too comfortable with leaving this alone and not fiddling with it. Maybe I've become too complacent with being the little tiny thing that I have. Maybe there needs to be some shakeup. So if you want to come back with ideas, please. I think that next week we will do another board game week. I had a really fun time doing it. I think next week I'm going to focus more on 2-player games, more current stuff probably. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, probably. And then at some point we'll pivot back to older stuff, or maybe I'll flip that around. I don't know. But I think we're going to do another board game week next week, the whole week, just because I want to kind of keep that rolling for at least a little bit. So I think it's good to do a chain of those where people see those videos popping up regularly in their feed and go, oh. And maybe that's another thing. Maybe I should be hitting social media a little bit harder with like backdated stuff. Like, hey, I did this review last year. Go check it out. I know Ignacy does that a lot for Portal Games stuff. He reposts old content very often, and maybe I should seek that out more. But I'm trying to build this playlist of the Games That Stayed series, and so I want to kind of hit that a little bit harder while it's fresh and maybe get more eyes. If you hate that idea, let me know in the comments. If you don't want to see another week of board games so soon, we can talk about it. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is Lilliputian. It is an adjective meaning small in stature, tiny in comparison to one's peers. Jules Verne's Lilliputian appearance made people treat him like a child. Lilliputian. Lilliputian. So, M is Lilliputian. She's a small person, and I'm a tall person. And she also looks very young. And we've had to field quite a few comments about her being my child, and she thinks that's the most hilarious thing on the planet.